Imagine waking up in a medieval village. The sky is a dull gray, the roads are nothing but mud, and bread has vanished. The fields are flooded, livestock is dying, and children cry from hunger. Join me in this immersive video as we explore the origins of the Great Famine from 1315 to 1317, though some records extend its impact to 1322, especially in England. This is how the cursed year began, the year Europe plunged into chaos. But before we begin, I'd like to ask you to leave a like and subscribe so this family can keep growing. Hello, curious minds. Get ready. This is going to change the way you see the past. Welcome to Discovered History. For 3 centuries, Europe had thrived. Starting around the year 1000, the continent experienced what historians call the medieval warm period, a time of mild weather, abundant harvests, and rapid population growth. Villages multiplied, farmland expanded, and the population reached unprecedented levels. Peasants, though poor, could count on bread, barley, and the occasional bit of meat on feast days. Monasteries stored grain, markets overflowed with local goods, and cities were emerging as centers of trade and culture. But this prosperity had limits. The land was overworked, forests had been cleared, soils exhausted, and the population grew faster than food production. Europe lived on a fragile balance. One shift, and everything could collapse. In the spring of 1315, the sky changed. The rains began and didn't stop. For weeks, then months, water soaked the fields. Seeds failed to sprout. Wheat rotted. Roads turned into rivers of mud. Temperatures dropped. It felt as if the sun had abandoned Europe. Farmers tried to save what they could, but the constant moisture made plowing, harvesting, and even storing food impossible. The previous year's reserves were running out, and what should have been planted for the next harvest was eaten instead. Across England, France, Germany, Poland, and Scandinavia, the pattern was the same. Unusual, relentless, destructive rain. The climate had shifted, and with it, the fate of millions. By late 1315, bread had disappeared from the markets. Wheat prices rose 5-fold. The poor couldn't afford it. The wealthy rationed it. Hunger took hold. In Normandy, villagers looted granaries. In Flanders, riots broke out in monasteries. In London, records show that even nobles began cutting their rations. Accounts from the time, though scarce, are heartbreaking. One German chronicler wrote, "I saw mothers trading away their children for a handful of barley. I saw men surviving on roots, tree bark, and the meat of dead horses." In the villages, domestic animals were slaughtered. Seeds meant for planting were cooked. The agricultural cycle collapsed, and with it, hope. Monasteries, once places of refuge, also suffered. Their reserves ran out. Some closed their doors. Others were attacked by desperate peasants. Crime surged. Food theft became normal. Law and order weakened. Hunger didn't just kill, it changed people. By the winter of 1316, Europe had hit rock bottom. The rains continued, the cold intensified, and food no longer existed. Records mention cannibalism. In Poland, parents killing their children. In Ireland, corpses dug up for consumption. In Germany, a decree banned the eating of human flesh, suggesting it had become common. Hunger destroyed not only bodies, but souls. Faith wavered. Where was God? Why was this happening? Some blamed sin, others divine punishment. Processions multiplied, public flagellations too, but nothing changed. The sky stayed gray, the mud stayed thick, and bread remained absent. In the summer of 1317, the rains finally began to ease. Some regions managed a small harvest, but the damage was done. Millions had died. Estimates vary, but between 10% and 25% of Northern Europe's population vanished. Fields lay empty, villages were decimated, livestock had disappeared in many areas. In 1318, a cattle plague wiped out what little remained. Recovery would be slow and incomplete. But the deepest wounds were invisible. Trust in the feudal system eroded, faith in the church weakened, social structures cracked. In 1319, the rains didn't return with the same force, but neither did the sun. The climate remained unstable, seasons unpredictable. Farmers planted cautiously, fearful. Many had lost their draft animals. They plowed with their own hands, with broken tools, with broken hope. Harvests were meager. What little was gathered went to survival, not future planting. The agricultural cycle, still shattered, refused to mend. Monasteries, once centers of charity, had become fortresses. Their walls protected grain, not souls. Monks, once spiritual shepherds, were now warehouse guards, and the people watched them with resentment. In regions like Flanders and the Rhineland, rumors of miracles spread. Villagers claimed to see weeping virgins, saints walking through fields. Desperation searched for signs, and where it found none, it invented them. The church, weakened but still powerful, tolerated no challenges, but every execution was an admission, a sign of fear, proof that control was slipping. In 1320, harvests improved slightly. Some regions managed to store grain, markets reopened, but prices remained high. Bread was still a luxury, and the memory of hunger lingered. Children born in 1315 were now learning to walk, but they didn't laugh. Their bodies were frail, their eyes dim. Some called them the mud generation. In England, records show a rise in land sales. Feudal lords, drowning in debt, began losing power. Merchants, enriched by controlling grain, gained influence. Society was shifting. In Scandinavia, coastal communities turned to the sea. Fishing became salvation, but also danger. Storms were more frequent, shipwrecks more common. In Germany, groups of flagellants appeared, men and women walking the roads, whipping themselves publicly. They claimed hunger was punishment, pain was redemption, blood was the answer, and many followed them. In 1321, a new threat emerged: dysentery. Years of neglect had ruined sanitation. Wells were contaminated, latrines overflowed, and water was no longer life. In Paris, over 1,000 deaths were recorded in a single month. Doctors, helpless, turned to prayer. Priests, exhausted, sold indulgences, and the people buried their dead in silence. In Florence, banks began to collapse. Debts accumulated during the crisis became impossible to pay. Trade stalled, confidence evaporated. By 1322, Europe was a fractured continent, hungry, suspicious, wounded. Surviving villages were shadows of their former selves. Fields were open scars, roads, routes for bandits, and hearts full of fear. Faith persisted, but no longer unquestioned. Processions continued, but with less fervor. Indulgences were sold, but with more doubt. Monks, once revered, were now watched with distrust. Children grew up without play, adults without dreams, elders without hope. Europe wasn't dead, but it wasn't alive either. 30 years later, in 1348, the Black Death would arrive, finding a continent weakened, traumatized, and vulnerable. The Great Famine was the prelude, the first blow, the warning. The story of 1315 is not just a medieval tragedy, it's a reminder. Civilization is fragile. Climate can change everything. Hunger recognizes no class, creed, or border. Today, with technology, science, and globalization, we think we're safe. But are we? What if the rains didn't stop? What if crops failed? What if the system collapsed? 1315 teaches us that hunger doesn't arrive with noise. It arrives with rain, with mud, with silence. And when it comes, it reshapes the world. Remember to subscribe to the channel, leave us a like, and share the video with other history fans. You can activate the notification bell so you don't miss the upcoming videos we'll be releasing about surprising events or ancient civilizations that shaped the world we live in today. Thank you for staying until the end. And remember, here, we don't just tell history, we relive it together.